Happy Wednesday. Good to see everybody. I think for many of you, first time since Mykonos. For some of you, first time in a while. I'm hosting today as Jovi is on a 2-week holiday, a well-earned 2-week holiday, nice and early in the summer. I'm actually also just thinking about and booking restaurants for my holiday in Ibiza in late July, just to let you know where my mind is sort of right now. Yeah, like excited to have this workshop about a very important topic, outbound sales. We're just having a good conversation about that with our guest today, Daria, and even sort of laughing about some emails that I've sent in the past and emails that I've received very recently. Yeah, so it's going to be a very interesting talk. I think just in general, what I've seen on outbound sales is that a lot of SaaS companies have transformed their businesses exponentially so by you know actually adding an outbound sales process. A good example is ConvertKit and Nathan Barry, and I don't know if you are aware of Nathan Barry or ConvertKit, but they are bootstrapping still. He was doing inbound only until around about 10 million ARR, which is not too bad. But he added outbound, and then they scaled to 30 million ARR like within a couple of years, and that was the thing that really kind of transformed the business, right? So just kind of sharing that. And I think too often, I think I see certainly in the early stages of SaaS, where many of us are, that we're either not doing outbound correctly or we're not doing it at all. And maybe too scared to kind of send emails, but it's important to send emails and do it in the right way. But with that, I am going to introduce our guest, but she will also introduce herself. And hopefully I don't ruin her introduction. But Daria has spoken at SaaStock last year, but that's not her claim to fame. She is the co-founder of SalesRoom, and many of you might have been on the workshop by her co-founder, Roy Solomon, which was probably a month or two ago, which was very good. I wasn't there, but I did sort of, see the material. Daria has also been on the VC side. I don't know if you want to call it the dark side, but, it's helped funding SaaS companies. And she's also worked as an operator at Dropbox, specifically in sales. But yeah, now is in the co-founder seat. With her product SalesRoom. Everybody should check it out. And Daria, feel free to plug it at the end or the beginning or whatever. Yeah, look, I think without further ado, let's give the floor to Daria. But I will say, and everybody's doing it already, so everybody's got their cameras on. Fantastic, because we love to see your faces. We would like you to, if you have something to say and a question to ask throughout, just kind of unmute yourself or raise your hand. And please ask a question. Don't save everything to the end. So Daria is very open to this being sort of interactive and really would welcome questions and preferably questions, through audio rather than in the chat. But we will also welcome chat if you are in a cafe like Philip. Good stuff. I think over to Daria, and looking forward to this. And thanks everyone for attending on this sunny Wednesday.
Thank you very much, Alex. Hey guys, nice to meet you, everyone. To add to Alex's intro, another business that's doing phenomenally well with Outbound is Cledara, another big friend of SaaStock. Their head of sales previously, Oscar, and Eric, who runs the SDR team, they are absolutely phenomenal at this. So go follow them on LinkedIn. If you're coming to SaaStock, which I hope you are, they'll be there at the booth, talk to them. I get a lot of inspiration based on what they do. Yeah, so this workshop, as Alex said, we did this in Dublin in October, and then Jovi was like, do you want to do this also with the founder membership? And around March time, and I was like, yes, sure, I'll do it. I thought easy enough, recycle the same slides, go for it. And when I opened the slides, I realized that so much has happened between October last year and right now that basically my entire slide deck was outdated, which tells you that sales moves very, very fast. And I think with ChatGPT and everything else, a lot of things have happened. that have impacted the dynamics a lot. So I'll do my best to, tell you how I think about it, how a lot of people in the field are thinking through it. But, a month from now, it probably is not going to be accurate anymore because something new is going to happen. So before even introducing myself, I thought I will start with the elephant in the room. And there's actually more than one elephant. The one elephant that the two elephants at the bottom, the PLG and buyer education, this has been going on for kind of the last 5 years. On the buyer side, I mean, open any Gartner paper, they tell you that buyers are coming to us very late in their buying cycle. They prefer to spend time in their own communities with their peers, and they do research online. They don't talk to salespeople until they're absolutely sure this is what they're going to do. PLG was supposed to kill sales 5 years ago. Definitely kind of changed certain dynamics, but we're still here. The other one is the response rate. So Outreach and SalesLoft, they're doing a whole lot of research based on their data, and the response rate in cold outbound have been abysmal in the last year. Part of it has to do with the economic environment. Generally, people are buying less, and part of it has to do with the fact that it's really, really easy to get started. You buy an Apollo license for $99 a month that comes with a whole bunch of data. You can email 1 billion people a day. And a lot of people are doing it in a very thoughtless way that creates basically the mess that is our inboxes right now. And that's why it's incredibly hard to stand out from the noise. And the biggest elephant is generative AI and the impact that this has on sales motions. So my first question to you, and answer is the chat, is do you think sales, SDRs, so not sales, do you think SDRs and outbound is going to exist 5 years from now, or do you think it's going to be automated away? So 1, if you think it's going to exist, 0, if you think that it's going to go away. If you just type in the chat so we get a little bit of pulse check on what we're all feeling. Nice. Okay. Nikhil thinks it's going to be all automated. Everyone else thinks, Igor thinks it's going to be automated. Okay. Good to see where you guys are at. I'm probably somewhere at 0.5. I think a lot of the really thoughtless work will be automated, and I think we'll expect a lot more from people and we'll approach it differently, but I don't think sales will go away. Okay, so who am I? Started my career in enterprise sales at HSBC, didn't do all, I had 10 customers I was allowed to do business with, nothing cold about that. Did all kinds of sales at Dropbox, so starting from inbound, and then we obviously had the benefit of our user base that we tried to monetize, so sent a whole bunch of emails to our existing users to start conversations. Then I worked at a fund called Ox, which is also a very big partner of SaaStock, as an investment professional. I put that in brackets because it's a fancy title, but really what you are is an overpaid SDR. Because all you're doing is generating, you guys get how many emails from associates at funds, right? How many do you reply to? Probably 0. So that was probably my first encounter with like the cold email. And now I am a co-founder of SalesRoom. We are a seed stage between seed and Series A. I'm based in London. My co-founder is based in the US. He looks after product strategy, and I look after the execution on the go-to-market side. That's how we split my time. And also because of my position at SalesRoom, I probably have 30+ conversations every week with sellers, with individual contributors and sales leaders every week. So that helps me keep a hand on the pulse on what's going on in the field. So this is, I have a very rough agenda for today. So I thought we'll talk about some universal best practices for outbound. These are the things that stood the test of time, even with generative AI and everything else that goes on in the market. Then I have some examples of emails that I have sent that have landed me a 100-user deal not too far away, not too far back in the past. And we also look at some examples that Alex has to share of emails that landed him the pedal sponsorship for SaaStock that also started as a cold email. And we also have some bad examples of emails that are just being shared for inspiration, so we can like brainstorm how to make them better. And then I also want to address two things. One is, so number 2 on the list is working with agencies, contractors, and setting up outbound sales teams. There are a lot of snake oil salesmen in this industry. And I don't know about you guys, but when I'm very busy and then someone comes and is like, hey, I can free up your time and do this, this, and this, I have incredibly happy ears. And so I want to give you guys like a few, if you want to hire someone external, like what to look for someone who delivers on their promise. And then the last part is like, listen, outbound is hard. It has always been hard. It continues to be hard. If you can make your sales motion any warmer, you should. And there are a few very interesting things that founders, especially at sort of like Series A, seed to Series A, Series B stage, are doing with advisors and customer referrals that gives you kind of warm leads that is not inbound, not outbound, something kind of in between that I also wanted to share with you. And my goal for the day is that everyone here walks away with something actionable that they can deploy in their business immediately. So please, at any point, chime in. I want this to be as interactive as possible. On Sales Room, we have this thing called buyer engagement metrics. So at any point in time, kind of we'll look at what you guys are doing on the platform to tell the host if people are still engaged. Now we're obviously on Zoom. I don't see that. I'm shitless scared because I'm used to knowing when people are in their inbox and not listening to me. So I hope it doesn't come to that, jump in with any questions or suggestions. And so before we get started, also in the chat, 1, if you're already doing outbound, 0, if you're not doing any outbound. And then what would make, the 45 minutes that we have together a success for you. Or if you're brave enough to unmute and let us all know kind of what you're looking to get out of today, that's also very welcome. Okay, 0.5. I should not have brought another 0.5. Okay.
we've been dabbling in outbound. It's not been an aggressive outbound campaign, but we flirted with outbound.
What were your results?
So we haven't tried outbound in English speaking. So we were looking to expand a little bit into European market. So success was really limited. We chose a destination that would where the predominant second language was English, but we did find that although second language was English, and there was a good handle of the language when we were speaking to contacts, they weren't ultimately comfortable with trading in English in case of any like technical issues or whatnot. They didn't feel comfortable with their ability of the language to explain the problem.
Yeah, makes sense.
But it's something that we're going to be now replicating back into English speaking countries. So perhaps we've gone about it the wrong way.
Yeah, I think you should start in a language in which you're more scope, because I guess after you generate interest, you want to get on a call with them. And if you can't have that call in their native language, that it's sort of not the best use of resources.
Yep.
Okay, Simon, founder trying to do it. My head goes off. I'm also a founder doing it. So, okay, cool. So I will run through the fundamentals kind of quickly. Again, jump in at any point. So why would you kind of, a little history of outbound, why would you do it? It allows you to own your own destiny more so than anything else. Inbound doesn't scale, which is why we started doing that at Dropbox, even as a company that had 13 million of unique monthly visitors to dropbox.com/business. Our leadership was kind of paranoid that inbound isn't going to last. And for me, the biggest advantage of outbound is you can go after exactly the types of accounts that you want. We have on the sales room website an option to book a demo, and sometimes, you know, two guys in an agency sign up for a demo and you have to do it, and it is what it is. But my ICP is sales teams with ideally 20 plus sellers. And yes, obviously you can target those people, but I find it cheaper and easier to do it via outbound more so than, you know, paid campaigns and other things. Before you do anything, you need to understand your CAC to LTV on outbound, and you need to know how much you're getting out of a customer and how much. Outbound is obviously more expensive than inbound. So before you do anything, sit down and just try to see, okay, how much am I charging? What's my average contract value? What type of customer gets me to that average contract value? And see if it actually makes sense to you. Because if you're selling to SMBs, outbound is not the right strategy for you. I'm sure there's a ton of different resources on that, but before you do anything else, know your CAC to LTV and just be honest with yourself if your product is mid-market enterprise enough to make that motion worthwhile. It's a specific skill set, it's difficult to get right, and there's no magic bullets. So why is it so hard? Automation is very, very easy these days, especially, and it's getting scary easy with ChatGPT. Relevance is hard. No one ever replies to your email because, you know, you say, oh, hi, James, I saw you're based in Dublin and weather is great today. I don't know, James, if you're based in Dublin, making an assumption, but weather is great today. By the way, we are an agency offering XYZ, you know, let's have a call on Tuesday. The best outbound emails are relevant rather than personalized. And in everything you do, you should try to achieve relevancy. Breaking through the noise is very hard. That's where you see a lot of people sending Loom videos, for example, a lot of people holding up signs with like the name of their buyer. It's gimmicky, but it does help you to stand out. The best one of those strategies that I have seen, that's what the guys at Oyster are doing. Their first outreach is always a Loom, and they would be either, it would be a Loom of the account executive scrolling through the careers page of the, so we all know who Oyster is, right? They're also a SaaStock friend, so they sell an employer of record solution. And so the way they do it is they would, account executive opens the careers page of their prospect and says, hi, Alex, I saw you are hiring a team in the US and in Spain and in Greece. I was wondering, how are you employing those people if you're busy like setting up different entities? But because people see their own careers page, it's very targeted to them. They're way more likely to reply. However, after that first personal email, everything else is a standard sequence, right? So you personalize the first one, and then after that, it's like, by the way, here's a case study, here's some resources. The very kind of bad things and when it doesn't work is when you have bad strategy and bad messaging. And those things should be taken, you know, I'll go into each one in a second. Outbound at startups is a very, very different game altogether because we don't have a brand. When you email someone and you're like, you know, I'm Salesforce, I'm NetSuite, it's a lot easier. When you're doing it as a startup, it's much harder. However, kind of back to Daria and to us, when you're building a new category, like no one Googles a Zoom replacement for sales. just like no one goes and Googles an automated expense system for SaaS companies. So if you're trying to build a new category, outbound is really your only option to kind of get yourself out there next to referrals and other more warm and network sources. So that could be like the one caveat to the CAC LTV that I said above, that if you are building a new category, then outbound is something that should be considered. So where do you start? You start with your ICP. And again, back to James's example, kind of where they are located, languages, any company attributes, super important. This is an exercise that should be done with you guys, with your head of sales, with your product people, where you really try to map both the companies that you serve and the people. I can share a very helpful template that I like to use afterwards in an email with you guys. And you should go really, really granular and really deep. For example, for me, for sales room, what I look for are sales teams with a very high ratio between managers and direct reports. Because if you are a manager and who has 3 direct reports, you can join calls, you can listen to recordings, you have the time to do it. If you have 7, you're overstretched, right? And the more granular you are about your ICP, the easier it will be to find those people, and the easier it will be to make the messaging personal. So just really do this exercise well and try to see who are these people that you're going after. This is kind of what that could look like, you know, our ICP, company, stage, blah, blah, blah. You fill all of this out. You talk with multiple people in your company. And I want to zero in here on this like emotional pain, because that's how you engage someone in an email, right? When I write emails about this, I talk about, hey, dear sales manager, you care a lot about your team development, but I know that you don't have the time to coach them and it's killing you, and I have a solution to you, right? So when you're playing between the two, when you go into the emotional, it tends to generate much better responses from people. So once you have it, you need to find more people who look like your ICP. I just use LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It's more than enough, especially if you sell into like B2B SaaS, all of those people are there. ZoomInfo and Cognism are the other 2 very popular choices. Cognism has better data in Europe. ZoomInfo has better data in the US. I would say don't overkill it. Sales Nav is more than enough. And try to kind of build a list of both accounts. That's what it could look like in Navigator. I like doing it based on department headcount, like this one down there. For me, you know, the target is like, hey, if you have more than 20, 30 salespeople, you're probably relevant to me, rather than revenue or other attributes. Another very good source is Crunchbase. Crunchbase, probably in terms of value for money, is the best thing out there that there is for data. You can download, you can use all sorts of Google plugins to augment your lists. You can hire people on kind of people per hour to augment those lists. But yeah, so between Crunchbase and LinkedIn's, and Apollo also has some data. It tends to be very good for B2B SaaS, not good if you try to go left, right, or center from there. But it's included with the email, and I know a lot of people who are using that. So this is a person view. So this is, before it was account, here's people. So you can go into titles, you can go into geographies. Also, by the way, just to mention, social selling is something that is becoming bigger and bigger. And something that I personally do every day is I have all those things saved. And every day I add 10 people on LinkedIn who fit my ICP. It's very fast. You can personalize your message. You can not personalize your message, because if they connect to you, right, they will see all of your LinkedIn posts. And I think it goes without saying, we should all be active spreading the message of our companies on LinkedIn. And I have closed deals based on people that I have added. I never spoke to them. I never pitched them, that just come to me and say, hey, you know, so that you've been doing, can we have a demo? Or like, can you give me a price for that many users? So I just have this sort of view saved. I refresh it once a week. You know, it tells me when new people get added, and I add kind of between 10 and 25 people a day. Without, this is not outbound, just other lead gen strategies. So the old way of doing outbound was to find leads, set up sequences, send lots of emails, expect a small number of leads to reply. The new way of doing it is to reverse engineer this process. So below are kind of two things that I have personally both done and a lot of other people are doing. The first is the influencer strategy. So you go find influencers on LinkedIn in your field, and you see who are the people interacting with their posts. It's very easy. If someone has a LinkedIn live event, which is like a LinkedIn webinar, and you click on attend, it opens up the entire list of people who've registered to that event to you. And all these, so you know, like these people are interested in that topic, right? And now you have their names, very easy to figure out email addresses, you can email them. So figure out who are the influencers, see who is interacting with their posts, or see who is attending their events. Some people do it also with competitors. So see who is interacting with your competitors' posts, scrape their names and find contact details. Scraping from LinkedIn is not really legal. So they try to, there's always some kind of a scraper that works for 2 months and then it stops working. But you can always, like, you know, try to find an alternative. And the big plus with this is that you can be hyper personalized. Like, you know what the event has been about, you know what they've interacted with. You can use that and you can say, hey, Alex, I saw you were interested in this, this, and this related to your value proposition. Here's your first super personalized email. The second, this competitor review strategy is something I personally absolutely love. You go on either G2 Crowd or, so we have an app for HubSpot and for Salesforce. So do a lot of people in the revenue intelligence space. I go there, I see what people are complaining about. I use that, I see who is complaining about that, scraping, emailing. Here is a live example of an email that I sent that has resulted in a closed won 10-user deal less than a month later. And we're now in discussions about expanding that to the rest of the org for 100 users. So kind of explaining what I'm doing here. Hi, so you're frustrated that Gong pulls data from HubSpot but doesn't sync back to the CRM. That's what I saw in the review that the person wasn't happy about. I'm guessing you're losing valuable time going back and forth between systems while trying to find the most impactful coaching opportunities. We're helping teams of your size save 10 hours a week. So the second, so an observation, you're unhappy that Gong doesn't sync back to HubSpot. Second is an assumption, like I assume this impacts you in this way. And then third is kind of hinting on a solution. We're helping teams of your size save 10 hours a week by automatically summarizing customer meetings, highlighting key coaching moments, and syncing with HubSpot. Worth a conversation, Daria. So that's the email that I sent. Was probably my most successful outbound email to date. I guess what made that successful, the fact that it was highly relevant. If you're not all over your competitors or kind of partners' reviews on review sites, you should be. And my second example is something very different. I think when you look at outbound and you try to define success, you kind of try to relate it to leads, sales qualified opportunities, closed won. I think the right way to see outbound is as starting conversations. It used to be cold, and now you've established contact with that company. It's very rare that you can go straight from cold email, proposal, all of those stages. Much more often, it's just a way to engage someone. You may get them on the phone in a meeting, you may not get them, but they're in your CRM, they know who you are, they're replying, they're engaging with you, right? That's a win. So something that I love doing is anything around events. This is an example of the other far inferior SaaS conference that took place in London 10 days ago. So we did this blast where we had a little rooftop drinks event, and we say, so, hey, Chris, wanted to invite you to our event. We're co-hosting it. I don't know if you're heading to SaaStock, but you can still join for networking. Very, very high response rate. You don't even need to know who is going. You can just look at all the companies that are in the area. You can try to guess who will be coming to this conference. This thing over here, PS, let me know if you have any dietary requirements, works like magic. Lots of people have done A/B tests. That's like the one thing where like, oh, you care about me, you care about my dietary requirements. Of course I'll come. So this campaign had sort of something like close to 30% response rate. Not everybody attended, but people at least said thank you, right? Now they have replied to my emails, they'll get other emails from me. So what are other things that are of the same camp that you can try? So events are great. Participate in the study. That's another one that's been very fruitful for me, where you're like, hey, we are writing a white paper about so-and-so. Would you like to participate? We'll feature your company in the white paper. I can shoot you some questions over. And people love marketing, they love exposure. You create a survey with 10 questions, you send it to them. And if it's like really good ICP, you do the interview in person. And then, by the way, it starts a conversation, you get to know more about them. The third one is what I call our CEOs in town. Works also very well especially if you're traveling for meetings. You can pull up a list of companies in your ICP in Berlin, and you can be like, hey, we saw you're in Berlin, our CEO is coming, and the CEO may not have to be coming. Our CEO asked to request a meeting with you, and tends to get very high reply rates as well. Cool. So I hope that those examples kind of cheered people up and increased engagement in the room. We have more from Alex shortly.
You want to say it now or later?
Yeah, let's do it now.
All right.
Yeah,
nobody laugh. I'm watching anyone laughing. Okay. This email did make money though. Good job on Daria remembering this email as well. So hopefully this is it. So here everyone see my screen? Yeah, thumbs up. So I sent this email. So SaaStock, the first SaaStock was 2016. The second SaaStock, I invited Christian, the CEO of Paddle, and I said this: hi Christian, I stumbled across Paddle last month, which was true. I think I'd read about them in an article. Looks like a great product, exactly the type of company and solution we want to showcase at SaaStock, Europe's largest B2B SaaS conference. Still the case. Sorry, SaaStock, but it's still us. Taking place in Dublin in September. I've taken the liberty of attaching our sponsorship deck for your review. Let me know if any packages be of interest. That's not very good English. If you're interested in signing up early, I'd be happy to discuss commercial terms. Going in there with a discount, also, I shouldn't have done that. If the sponsorship opportunity is not of interest, I hope that we'll welcome you and your team at the event. Best Alex. And then I've got our old sponsorship deck there. Now, Christian never responded to this. But I think as Daria sort of kindly reminded me that he did actually come with his team to the event. So I think we put SaaStock on his radar. He came to the conference, and then from 2018 onwards, they've exhibited at SaaStock, become one of our biggest partners. We actually share an office with them now, so we're actually paying them. I don't know how that works, but they have probably spent almost £500,000 with us since that time. So I would like to think it's from this one email. Maybe he never saw it. Maybe it went into spam, and he just came because somebody told him it was a great conference. But I probably would say that this put SaaStock on his radar. So yeah, a little example there for you.
So a few things that I really like about that email.
Should I keep it on screen, or
yeah, let's keep it on screen. So
right.
I think the length is perfect. You don't want to be any longer than that. From that perspective, I think subject line is great as well. It's very like pedal at SaaStock. It has their name in there. It's it's catchy, like, you know, you want to open it. A few things on the email delivery side, you don't want to attach anything to your first email when you're sending it to an unknown sender. So if it landed in spam, it could have been because of the attached sponsorship deck. But generally, so those things hurt deliverability. So best practice on that front is no pictures, no links, definitely no attachments. That being said, I also think in your first email, it's not about overwhelming them with information. It's about like just putting some idea in their head. So even if it didn't hurt deliverability, I probably wouldn't do it unless it's like a Loom video you're attaching. And I think it goes to say that Outbound is a long game. It would have been very unusual if Christian had replied to that email and said, sure, Alex, where do I sign? You know, let's discuss commercial terms. But it did kind of make the connection, right? Yeah, so thank you very much, Alex, for being so open and sharing this. Oh, does anyone else have any thoughts on this email? Or on any of the two emails that I have shared before we show you a different example?
I'm very impressed, Alex, how organized your inbox is.
I have an assistant, so it's not me.
I was thinking the exact same thing, like only 3,700 emails. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I've received emails where it's like our CEO is in town, and if it's a company that I've never heard of, I don't care. So I think if there's a bit of awareness, then maybe that would have worked. But if it was like some offshore dev firm and they're like, our CEO's in town, I'd be like, oh, whatever, don't care, spam.
Yeah, I think it works with some roles. Like some people like to feel important. So if you think, like, for example, I don't want to offend anyone, but if you're selling into like finance or procurement, right? No one really cares about these people. And then like, oh, CEO of a company is in town, right? Or like accounting and stuff. Other roles, it doesn't work that well. So, you know, if you're a founder, like you probably don't care about some random CEO in town. But would like an invitation for like a drinks event or something, would that get you to reply?
Always.
I can verify Jamie loves a drinks event.
Yeah.
Me too. I would also confirm that.
Well, I mean, I could go around the room and say everybody pretty much.
Any
I have a question around, are these activities an SDR's role? So because to me, this seems like the right things to do, but I cannot imagine filling my day with doing these things unless I should be thinking that way.
I mean, it's a great question. I think, so first of all, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but if you think that you can hire an SDR for 30 or 40K a year and get them to figure out your outbound, it's not going to happen. Generating leads for startups is very, very tough. My co-founder, and I think actually we've made a big mistake. We as like a sales profession, in positioning SDR as an entry-level role, and then, oh, you know, you do this for a year and then you become an AE, right? It's a completely different skill set. There is a lot of value once you gain that skill set and continuing on that path, right? And it's a shame that there is no career path for like an individual contributor, an SDR who just, you know, goes higher and higher and maybe goes like more and more enterprise. And the other thought is, when you're at a startup and you don't have a brand to leverage, you have to be really creative. You have to be really thoughtful, and you have to have enough authority in front of the other person. So one of the very famous sales coaches in the London community, I'm not going to say who it is to protect their anonymity, but
Kevin Bills.
They told me that the problem with the SDR model is that we have kids managing kids selling to adults. And I think it's very, very true, right? So in terms of, should you be doing this? Should you be doing this for a 5K deal? No. Should you be doing it for a 50K deal? I think absolutely yes. I think when you don't have a lot of, I don't know your company, maybe, you know, you have a phenomenal brand and people know you in the market, but if you, like, I know for myself that when I reach out to people and I say, hey, I'm a co-founder and so and so, I get much higher, especially when you're doing it on LinkedIn and people can click on your profile and see who you are. That instantly gives you credibility that someone that you hire just doesn't, right? So long-winded answer, I think, see which deal is worth your time for you to do it. If you hire someone to do it, hire someone who's experienced and credible, and kind of compensate that person accordingly, because it's a very tough job.
Yeah, if I may add to that, Daria, and to Oren's question about, you know, can't see yourself spending time doing it. Like, I think founder-led sales, you know, is kind of key, maybe up to the first sort of million, you know, in ARR or revenue. And I led sales at SaaStock for the first 2 years, until we got to that point. And as you can see, I'm doing the outbound, but then I was also doing the meetings, you know, as well, because we didn't have an SDR, right? Because we couldn't afford to do it. Now, I might have had an unfair advantage in that before I started SaaStock, I had 11 years in sales, and I'd kind of done all of these roles from, you know, calling 100 people a day to doing, you know, being a strategic account exec. But I definitely feel it's very important for the founder probably to, you know, lead sales up to that, you know, that first million ARR. And, you know, Saravana, who was the mentor at the retreat in Amalfi, who's now buying Lamborghinis and, you know, and Porsches and driving 200 miles down the Autobahn with his kids in the front seat. You know, he's what, I don't know, about 12-30 million ARR at the moment. When I had him on the podcast, he told me, like, you know, he did the first 1,000 demos for Kovai, which it's a big number, right? But he did that, and then obviously he sort of mastered it, and now, you know, has built the sales team. And coincidentally, and I didn't know if you know Daria, he's hired Oscar from Cladara, who Oscar built out and used to work for us, the SDR team and the outbound process for Cladara, and got them from pretty much 0 to 5 million ARR. And however many SDRs, so like a huge team of SDRs building out that motion. But yeah, I think you got to do it in the beginning and get the feel for it. And even if you don't like doing it, I would say it's pretty important. But as Daria said, like targeting the right sort of customers, right? So I knew Paddle was a really good fit for us, and hence I kind of did the outbound, and it kind of worked out.
So I guess my question is, I get the demos part, but do other founders on the line have sort of SDRs assisting them, or somebody assisting them to find the leads, structure the leads, maybe signs off the templates, or have founders done this themselves the whole way?
We have 360. Sorry, Daria, you go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm finding.
I was going to say, our AEs are 360 reps, so they do essentially the SDR role as well. We've never made the SDR role work, but they do the prospecting, and it's a struggle because they are selling. They're trying to close deals, but at the same time, trying to find the time for prospecting. It's a tough one. I don't know if anyone caught the Brex talk at SaaStock, and the guy was saying that even though they have an SDR team, their AEs still they're responsible. Their AEs still produce 50% of the pipeline through prospecting, which I thought was interesting.
Sure.
Yeah, I would not hire an AE with no prospecting experience. I think when someone comes to you and says, I'm a great closer, but I expect leads to come from me, I would run from that person very, very fast. So to your question, Oren, what's basically how to do this. So there's a picture of a snake here because one, I love animals. I think graphics wake people up, and two, there's a lot of snake oil salesmen. I mean, just like, we're talking about dev agencies, outbound agencies are also messaging everyone, and it feels very, very good on paper, but in reality, it rarely works this way. So what actually goes into outbound? And what can you outsource and what should you keep in-house? So first is the tech setup. If you're serious about outbound, you have to set up multiple domains, because when you're doing email at scale and people mark you as spam, it hurts your reputation and you don't want to accidentally have none of your emails deliver anymore. So the best practice is to not do outbound from your main domain. So set up something that's like a lookalike. You also want to have different inboxes. So for example, if you, and this is what I absolutely say, hire someone to do. There are people who are experts in this. A lot of them are in kind of low-cost countries. They can do it. It's not that expensive. It will improve your deliverability massively. So the second part is you want to have inboxes that are both Google and Microsoft. You want to email people on Google from a Google setup domain, and you want to email someone on Microsoft from Microsoft. And when you buy and verify, when you get contact details, there are ways to see who is on which domain. So you hit them on the right angle, and always look at deliverability. So if your deliverability suffers, right, if you have, and that suffers from either people marking you as spam or people, or like having a lot of bounces, that massively hurts your domain reputation, and it massively impacts, obviously, your results, right? So you can see in saying, hey, I'm not getting a lot of responses, but it could be because your email is not actually getting delivered. So this part, absolutely hire someone. If you're interested, can give you a few names. The second part is researching target accounts. That is, if you've done the ICP part for reals, you can hire someone to do that, right? So I have people for me who are looking at ratios of this individual contributor to manager in sales. It's a lot of like individual LinkedIn searches. You can hire people who augment, if you know what you basically know what you want, do it yourself for 5 accounts, know what goes into it, and then hire like a student to do that. That's also really easy. Copywriting, I think that to me, after the ICP, is a crucial part. If you have someone on the team who is like a good marketer, they can do it. Salespeople should also be like, you can hire someone to do it, but I think it's not that difficult to do it in-house. The key is to really keep it brief. And I'll share the slides with you. There's a whole like 10 slides into the structure of an email and how it reads best and delivers the best results. And then campaign execution is really dropping emails into campaigns. You can have someone junior do that, like a junior operations person. You don't need to do it yourself. I think what you as a founder need to do is either is knowing the ICP, being like super tight on that, knowing all the attributes. If something changes, if you like win a customer who's slightly different, you interview them, you change that, like that's something that I would not give that to anyone anytime soon. Because to me, it's just so important, and someone who doesn't live and breathe your business wouldn't be able to do it. Minimum viable tech setup. Apollo is quite good. Outplay is another solution. It's an Indian company. I think they're a bit cheaper, and they allow you also to do like text messages, which I haven't experimented with. LinkedIn Sales Navigator. That being said, I personally, if I like listen to a podcast or like I'm on a webinar and someone says something that makes in my head connection that, oh, this person could be a good prospect for sales room, I send that email out of my email inbox. And I have this thing in my signature that says, this email was sent from my client. There's nothing to unsubscribe from. It's semi-arrogant, but it kind of like tells people like, hey, I'm a real person, but I'm very risky with this thing. So, you know, take it or leave it. And I just like, for me, it's a habit, right? When I listen to a podcast, something comes up that's interesting, open my phone, bam, 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 send. So yeah, that's, and again, to reiterate, it's much harder. If you're hiring someone for that role, I would look for someone who's kind of done that role before. I would test very hard for smarts. Oscar, who we mentioned before multiple times, his biggest tip is to hire people with life experience, not so much work experience, but life experience. Like if they've moved countries, if they've basically where they had to struggle before in their life, so that they can face that rejection and keep pushing forward, and you don't need to keep motivating them. Cool. So my last slide with tips before hopefully we can do some more discussion. So this is something I see people do left, right, and center in Silicon Valley that I'm also experimenting with right now. And this is like paying people for bringing you leads. The idea is not new. How you manage it and how you incentivize people is new. If you bring, I mean, who here, like probably all of us have advisors, angels on our cap table. Most of them don't ever do any introductions. You need to like handhold them to doing it. And so there's multiple ways to do it, right? The highest ones is advisors. And the key here is incentives. Think about 1, people on your cap table, 2, people in your industry or people who maybe worked with your industry and left. So they have a whole lot of connections and contacts, but they have no way to monetize it right now. And so what I do is I have a LinkedIn Sales Navigator search with the parameters that I need. So company size, the stuff that I've done before. First connections. I take that link and I send it to someone. So they just basically open that link, and then it shows the people in their network that fit those parameters. So I might send it to Alex, and it shows all the VPs of sales at those companies that Alex is connected with. And then I would get on the phone with people, and like they share a screen, and I look at those people, and together we're like, okay, do you know this person? Yes, no. Do you know this person well enough to make an intro? Okay, great. And then while I'm on the phone with them, I make them open an email and message this person. And it's not like, hey, you should look at sales room. It's more like, and it's best if they just like text them or message them being like, hey, Alex, haven't spoken to you for a while. How are you doing? And then they reply. And then you say, oh, by the way, you know, tough times. How are you doing with lead gen and training your team? Yeah, I'm struggling. Oh, by the way, I came across this solution. If they're a customer, they say, I have used it. It helped us a lot. Do you want to meet Daria, the co-founder? And then they say yes, and then that person makes an intro. And from there, you have to find a way to reward them. Here's a few things that I've seen working. So something like, and the numbers will be different based on your ACE and the people involved, but something like $300 for 3 intros that result in 2 meetings. So it's not just them making an intro, it's something translating into a meeting. 10% of every closed 1 deal. And the cherry on the cake is like, hey, we give you 100 shares in our company if you help us close 5 deals. A lot of people kind of want to be involved, start building their portfolio, don't have the money to do it, don't have the access. That last part gets a lot of people interested in doing this sort of thing. The same can be executed with customer referrals. And I would also not be very shy. I would not be shy at all to pay them for it, because otherwise, like, we're all busy, right? I've tried to do it just for thank yous, and I've tried to do it for money. And let me tell you, the latter one produces a lot more results. And it can be like Amazon gift cards and other stuff. But basically, you know, for results, we pay you. And then the last part of it is, if you don't want to do any one of those, you can name drop. So in your outbound that you can say, hey, Alex mentioned X, right? If you know you're both connected to this person, or Alex said we should talk. It's not very nice to Alex, but hey, do you want to sell and be alive or go down in flames? So that's the last of those strategies. And I think if you're resource strapped and you're still involved in this as a founder, I would say kind of try to exhaust this well before embarking in the whole outbound setup.
Hey, Daria, I have a question.
Should.
Yeah, before you mentioned that we should use 2 email boxes like Google and Microsoft.
Yeah.
And to Google, people using Google Suite, we should send via Google. People using Microsoft, we should send via Microsoft. Did I get that correct?
Yeah.
How do I get to know that if one of my prospects to whom I'm shooting a mail is using Microsoft or Google?
There's a bunch of email verify sites, and
Okay.
you can post the email. I think there's one is like verify-email.org, and it tells you what the host is.
Okay.
But
Thanks.
this is something that where you should hire someone to do that for you.
Understood. Got it.
Any more questions?
You also said that you'll be sending you'll be sharing a 10-slide deck, which would be about how to write like the parts of writing a cold email.
Yeah. It's all yeah, we skipped it. So I think Alex, will you be sharing the slides?
Yeah, we'll do that. Obviously, we've recorded this, and we'll have the recording. I don't know if it's going to be ready in Circle tomorrow, but the slides, Daria, you sent them to me actually, so I can just pop it in the WhatsApp channel or on Circle or both. I'll do that so you guys can get access to it.
Right.
Sound good?
Thanks, John.
Good. I think we've got a couple of minutes for any like final questions for Daria. Any conversation? Yeah, Igor.
Hi, Daria. Thank you very much. Very, very interesting. Now, it's a lot about calls and stuff like that. How about calls? I mean, emails we understand, but is the call still relevant? The cold calling, or it's less and less? You think?
Yeah, it's a great question. It depends very much on the industry and geography. So I sell to salespeople. I think the only reason why a salesperson picks up a cold call is to see if you're good at this and if they want to hire you, you know, if you are. I know a friend of mine, Owen, who was sales director at Pleo at the time, and we did this workshop together with him in Dublin. He loved cold calling. Apparently for the finance industry, it works great. These people don't get that many cold calls. So I think as a rule of thumb, I think Europe is better for cold calling than US. And then it depends on the function. And if you are doing cold calling, invest in I personally don't do it. I don't do it as a lead gen. I would do it if someone I'm in a sales deal and someone hasn't replied to my email in like a day or two. I would pick up the phone and be like, hey, Igor, want to make sure you saw my email. I wouldn't do it. If you're doing it as like a lead gen strategy, invest in a AI assisted power parallel dialer. So that's a system that kind of basically dials numbers for you all the time and then connects you much faster than doing it otherwise.
Thanks. And how about the channels like WhatsApp or SMS? Have you ever tried it or any experience?
I haven't tried myself. I do it later on in the sales cycle. I don't do it right away. I know other people do it. I think for me, it's just kind of probably a bit outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah. I mean, just to add to that, what's it like? Occasionally I get like cold WhatsApp emails from companies, like They almost very friendly as if they know you. And I find it personally quite weird. Whereas if it was on LinkedIn, like less weird, but maybe we need to get used to it. I don't know.
I think another thing that I personally haven't done, but that works really well for some people is LinkedIn voice messages. Because it's like a pattern interrupt and there's like, oh, there's something there. I have to click on it and see what it is.
Thank you.
Any other final questions? Or...
Yeah, I have a quick.
I think Rory got there first, then Dan, and then maybe we'll wrap it up.
I can hang on for like 5 more minutes, so don't worry.
Okay. Daria, just you were talking about 40K is probably not good enough. Where would you think good SDR into the UK enterprise kind of upper mid market? What would a reasonable salary be?
Oh my God! So I think things change a lot. I know back when we did this in October last year, actually not October, like summer, this time last year, a German-speaking SDR with outbound experience would ask for 100K pounds on target conversation. I don't think it is true anymore. I think, thank God, for better or worse, things have cooled out from that. If I were you, I would try to look at kind of companies comparable to your stage and look at their job specs and see what they are paying to people and benchmark that way. From the top of my head, I would probably say 50-60 with a high variable percentage. Like if an SDR doesn't want to work with variable comp, if any salesperson doesn't want to work with variable comp, don't hire them.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Dan, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you, Daria, for sharing all the information. It was very insightful, and good to see some of you guys' faces again. So yeah, I actually recently had a SaaS startup I was building that was focused on music artists, so not so much B2B, but I do have a B2B sales background. But I was with consumer goods, and I'm now leading sales in an enterprise AI company. We do already have some, big Fortune 500 companies. I have sold to Fortune 1000 companies before, a couple of them like Cold and all that, but I've never done, I want to do something new that I haven't done before that I'm curious if you've tried, which is doing these dinners, these executive dinners where you bring, maybe a couple of your current, the executives that are using your platform, and, it's a lot more, intimate, like more value add, like basically just having a round table, let's say around artificial intelligence for enterprises, or for example, it could be around, how they can use AI to, grow their business. Have you tried things like that? Because for me personally, and I can also share with you guys, as someone who's been a sales executive and a founder, sales executives and salespeople feel exactly the same way as founders when they get annoying, spammy messages or anything. Like, relationship is where it's at, right? That's how I built more. Like, I prefer intros. I prefer just in general, so like either intros or just like approach people with a more like humanistic approach. Because if you just like go straight into asking people something, hey, like there's so many emails and messages I've just ignored because of that. And it's learning from a sales executive perspective as well. As a founder, it's the same thing. Really. But I'm curious, like, have you tried something like that with the dinners, and what have your results been like?
I do it all the time. Actually, I do it about once every 3 months. Yeah. So biggest learnings. First, have a good persona and restaurant fit, right? So if you're inviting senior people, they're not going to come for beers and pizzas. So it needs to be something. Well, that being said, founders will come for beer and pizza, right? If there's a group of other founders. And so if you're inviting, like, I'm assuming you're inviting senior execs in enterprise, the way I would do it, I would find a very like cool and interesting location. I can drop a few names in the chat where I've done it before, and it was good. It needs to be like a little bit unique. So try to sell a little bit. So we done one recently that was a wine tasting, and the owner of the restaurant was actually doing the wine tasting. And so that was find something, or like cocktails and oysters happy hour, something that's like a bit more interesting. The second is try to mix a group of existing customers, prospect customers, people who are already in the pipeline, and people who are absolutely new. So like see it as top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, like have a very good mix of people. And sometimes you can also, like, if in your industry, this is Abby, my dog, by the way, if you have people like who are influencers in your industry and you invite them to speak at your dinner, and you advertise that gets people to come as well. These people sometimes demand to get paid for it. I just don't pay people for those. I tell them, like, I'm feeding you, fuck off, kind of thing. Like, the right people would do it for
I mean, they're getting exposure to senior level executives of giant companies. I think that if they're smart about building their personal brand, they would probably, you know, especially if they can get free dinner at a luxury restaurant. You know what I'm saying? It's not bad. Like, it's conversation.
So
but that makes sense. That's interesting. So you're saying also have sometimes you sometimes also have these experts come in to I love how we have like the dogs on, it's so cute. But just like have the experts come in like to I guess, you know, add that value add, right, for those executives. So it's like they're also coming, because that's part of why I want to do this, because I don't, like I said, I don't like the approach of being like, hey, you know, so like I like building relationships first with people. That's how I close like the first time I closed a cold Fortune 1000 company was actually, it was through cold email, yes, but I actually flew out in person, met with, you know, the head executives of that company in their headquarters, like actually, and I plan on doing the similar thing. And that's actually something else I want to ask you. How do you, what if they're in different states or different places? What do you do? Like, I'm in New York City, these places, some of these executives are in Atlanta or other states or countries. Like, do you fly them in, or do you let them take care of that? How does that work? Or do you just go to them?
I do it connected to conferences as well. Like, I've done one in Dublin, I've done one in London, because people are already in town. And the other, by the way, very good tip is find another adjacent company in your space and do it together. It dramatically changes the cost, right? Because you only pay half. Plus, if you're not competing with each other and some of their customers could be your customers and vice versa, that's how you make those things a bit more cost effective. And I think the other important thing is, like, keep the people like at the same, if you're inviting executives, like, make sure everyone there is at a similar level, because nothing is more of a turn off for those people than having someone like an engineer who messages them and asks them for a job tomorrow, you know?
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be more like people with like CMOs or like heads of marketing, but are like, you know, Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies. So, but I know, I see what you mean. That makes sense. Yeah, because definitely, if you mix, you know, that, and then there's like someone who's like in that hungry startup like mindset randomly in there, they're gonna. It's good. I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's definitely because and again, and a lot of keep in mind, a lot of people initially turned to was SMBs, not really startups, but like, you know, bigger businesses, but not like the huge ones. And so I was able to get more personal from the jump quicker. And this is a little bit different approach for me, you know, like really building relationships with, you know, like you said, by the department or by the executive. And so I'm excited to build on that skill set, but at the same time, I really appreciate his insight, because it's a new thing for me, right? So to do that approach of building relationships. So, yeah.
Good luck.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Should we wrap it up? I think as we're running a little bit over here, but I mean, let's all give a massive thanks to Daria. You know, so awesome. Really appreciate you. Really love this. And also, if you do love it, please do share Daria and Sales Room, you know, on LinkedIn, and give the company some love and give us some love on LinkedIn. And thanks everybody, really great to see you. Hope you have a cracking Wednesday, and hope you've learned something. I'm pretty sure that you have. We look forward to seeing you at the next events. Got some good ones lined up. Again, thanks so much, Daria. Really appreciated it. Thank you
guys.
everybody.
See everyone in Dublin in a few months, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, see you.
We'll see you there for more fun.
Thanks, Daria.
All right.
See you.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.